this is another testament to like God's timing and when God's hand is on something. When I started Anthem Night, I was broke. And one thing that I'm learning is like, dang, all right, I'm trying to work through being a people pleaser, but I'm in a position to where I have to serve people. If you don't release the music, I was like, well, I gotta get this and get this. I don't know this. Bro, just release it.
All right, let's get into this intro. Welcome everyone to the album review show, a show where we review some of the most incredible albums that have come out this year with the artists who created them. I'm your host, Haych, and today we have an artist, creator, producer from overseas, from the US, in fact, the creator of a group called Anthem Night, switching and flipping some classical gospel songs as well as some new school songs into vibey, trappy remixes in a way you haven't heard before. You've never, I promise you ain't heard what he does and Anthem Night do with these songs. Some of you may know him as It's the Black Knight. Some of you may know him from that, and some of you and others of you may know him as the superb Brvndon P. How are you doing today, man?
Man, I'm doing excellent. I'm doing well. A little exhausted, but we here, baby. So
now we're here. So what I like to do with all of the album reviews that we have is I like to put together like a sentence that kind of describes the album for me personally. Okay. So the sentence that I put for the intro album was the near perfect creative outlet of transparent worship for how it sounds, mixes, and blends in the minds of Brvndon P and Anthem Night music. Would you say that's a fair description?
Say that again. Just say it one more time. Just let me. I'm actually processing it.
The near perfect creative outlet of transparent worship for how it sounds, mixes, and blends in the minds of Brvndon P and Anthem Night music.
I think that is pretty close to articulating exactly. Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
What would the three words describe this particular album creating process and why?
Organic, spirit-filled, and not unique. But what is the word when it's just like that's you? You know what I'm trying to say? Free.
Yeah.
Let me just put free out there. Free.
Okay.
Let's put
no,
free.
I hear you.
Organic, spirit-filled, and free. Yeah,
because essentially you're trying to say it's the authentic self, like it's the authentic.
Yeah, authentic as well.
Elements of who you guys are. So why those three words?
I would say organic, just because, and organic / random because it just happened so organically. To where it was just like we released one of the videos from the first Anthem Nights and that blew up, and then the second one, like people was just like, "Yo, release this, release it," and it was just like such a organic situation to where like based off of our like people started to fly out to our events after like the second or third event, like and our third event was the live recording.
Wait. So let's go back. Wait,
let me before you say what you about to say, I have a lot to say because honestly, you're the first person to reach out to actually talk about this. Let me honestly wanted to set up an interview and actually kind of just like talk through like what has happened. I think you're probably, if I'm not mistaken, you're either first or second.
You said it was your third event, so that means that Trap Volume 1 was your first.
No.
Okay, talk me through it. Talk me through the whole process because we had because essentially you had the two EPs come out before the album.
Yeah.
Volume 1, Volume 2, the album, the Volume 3 came out in the summer.
I would say late summer, early fall.
Late summer. Yeah. So talk me through the process then, because if you're saying that's your third event and you're recording an album,
what? So, all right. So backstory: Anthem started organically. So Anthem Nights was an idea of a worship night that I had back in like late 2019, early 2020, right?
Yeah.
So I recorded an album for my church and I produced and wrote an album for my church. So we had a live recording, top of 2020. That
Yeah.
album was called Anthems from Heaven, right? And
Yeah.
from there, I was we were gonna do this thing called Anthem Nights as worship nights to like help push the album or just reestablish the worship culture out here in California, Northern California, because it's like there was something missing,
Yeah.
right? COVID hit. So that album went on, I mean, that idea went to the back burner. You know what I'm saying? So I think so last year, so fast forward like 2021, 2022, a friend of mine back then approached me about an idea of like a worship event, like, you know, creative, like whatever. He was thinking like Kanye Sunday service. I was like,
Yeah.
I kind of had the same idea in my head too. Cool. Fast forward, we started seeing differences, like there was just difference in, you know, opinions and stuff like that. So separated, and I hit up the homies. I'm like, hey guys, there's this thing that I've been thinking on Anthem Nights, and I think it's time to hit go. So we picked the date. It was like 2 weeks. We did our first event. We didn't plan nothing. It was just like find a venue. I took time. I was like, I don't want to do nothing out of church. I don't want to, like, everything was very intentional.
Mm.
And so the first event was like July, to where that was the Break Every Chain video that like kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
started that. And then the second event was when we was at outside at a club. And that's where Trap Worship 1 was recorded. So the idea, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna just have video crew. I'm gonna have audio, and I'm gonna record everything because I don't know what's gonna come from this, and we're just gonna post it on the internet. Like releasing music wasn't even an idea, wasn't a thing. It was just like, yo, this is amazing. I'm just gonna post it on the internet. Boom. And that first video, Break Every Chain, did numbers. That second video, release it, release it, release it, release. I was not trying to release nothing until Pastor Mike Jr. called me and was just like, "What are you doing, bro? If you don't release the music," I was like, "Well, I gotta get this and get this. I don't know this,
Mm.
bro. Just release it. Just release it. Let everything fall where it's no. Just release the music." So if it wasn't for Pastor Mike Jr. calling me, he really gave me a kick in the butt as far as just releasing it. So I give credit to Pastor Mike Jr. for actually like, hey, bro, like it's okay. Just release the music.
Okay. So we're gonna need to pause there.
That's a lot.
So you're telling me
Yeah.
you were not even thinking about releasing the music at all?
No. Because I didn't want to be like, oh, they stealing the music and this and that. I didn't want to go through none of that. I was just thinking just posting it on YouTube, posting it on Instagram, right? But then people just like, I want to listen to this. I want to listen to this. I want to listen to this. And it was just consistent to where it was just like, you know, this person started, so it just started getting a lot of traction. So no. So first, yeah.
Because you've been in this kind of industry for such a long time, you would feel like, oh yeah, this would be good to like release this. But the fact that you was like, Pastor Mike Jr. had to ring you and say, what are you doing, is just like a shock to me, considering your music journey.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think because like I being a church boy or being in that environment was always just so natural for me. Like I just love being in that space. I love just the essence of it. So I wasn't really trying to like, oh, I'm thinking about, no, really, that really did not cross my head until the video started doing what it's doing. And then people started commenting, releasing. I was like, should I release it? And then Pastor Mike Jr. called me and was just like, yes, you should. Because I was already doing live albums. I was already doing the trap worship, like kind of flipping songs already a little bit. I was already kind of in that space. So I wasn't, and then I did a worship EP kind of like presenting. So it didn't actually cross my mind. No, it didn't. Now, that's not the reason why I started Anthem Nights. It was just really just to uh, present a worship culture for creatives, honestly. Yeah.
And that's what it feels like. It feels like when you watch the videos, when you listen to the EPs, the album, it feels like, just as you kind of described it at the start, just an organic, free, creative process that is just happening, but it's pure worship. It's like, this is how I hear this song sounding in my
Yeah.
head.
Yeah.
And even on the album, like one of the song, what my favorite song personally
Mm-hmm.
is the song that sounds a little bit different to all the other ones, which is Proof. What is happening around that time when you write, put that song together and think, let me put this on the album?
Proof is one of my favorite songs because what was happening at the moment, and this is another testament to like God's timing and when God's hand is on something. When I started Anthem Night, I was broke. Actually, no, I went broke putting on Anthem Night because I didn't have no investors. I didn't have nobody help. I didn't ask anybody. It was really just like asking the people that I was a part of, hey, this is my idea. I don't have the money to pay you right now. Some people just like, well, I paid some people, paid the venue, paid video. Just I'm like, this is what I got to get out, and it hit to a point where like I didn't have really no money, right? And so, but I resorted to things that I did in the past to make me money. And that was a show, that was selling beats, that was trying to do studio sessions and record different people, for extra income and stuff like that. None of that was working. None of it was working. So at the time we was writing this project, stuff was going viral, stuff was doing this, stuff was doing that, but I was broke with no money. I was using credit cards to pay rent, just a whole different situation. I got into a life threatening accident to where, yeah, I almost lost my life in the middle of the night again. And that song, I literally said, hey guys, we was in a little writing session. I said, I want to write a song that talks about God proving who he said he's going to be or who he says he is. It's not enough. Like I heard it in the church. I've heard stories about like this and that. I've heard stories of God doing this, but like, what about me? Like God literally stripped away everything that I depended on to show me like I'm your provider. And literally like that line at the last second you stepped in was just like I didn't have money for my rent. And I didn't know how it was gonna happen. And then at the last second, I think the next morning I got a deposit from a random royalty check. Like like God literally proved who he said he is to me. Because it's not enough. Like I've heard it. I've heard God be like, you know what? I came to the end of myself, this and that and the third. I've heard that in church a lot. And it's just like, praise God. But to actually experience it for yourself is a whole nother thing. And so that is where that song was birthed out of. And to hear the testimonies behind it, it's just like, yeah, like, yep, he did it. He did it. Now I know. You prove yourself. Like, come on now. So yeah.
That that particular song, the first time I heard it, I thought, as much as it sounds like a worship song, it sounds fresh and it just felt like it could pierce a heart because it's not like you're not someone wouldn't have to, and I want to say this correctly, someone wouldn't have to be in depth in the Bible to understand or to really relate to this particular song.
Mm-hmm.
They could just be like you were at the last of whatever it is, struggling to make ends meet. And then you hear a song that says, at the last second, you stepped in and you proved to be who you are. You did it, what you said you would do. This mountain, I know that you will move. My problems, they're not too big for you. Someone who can listen to that song in a
Yeah.
moment of where they're at
Yeah.
can turn around the circumstance in such a way from that song.
Yeah.
It's just incredible songwriting that feels so simple but has such a big effect.
And now that's very intentional. That's very intentional. So like when I'm in a writing session, be like, let's find a different way. And then they'll say something deep. It's like, no, that's too deep. We don't gotta. I'm not trying to be, I want to be simple, but I want it to hit. You know what I'm saying? And sometimes like the most simplest things is like the hardest things. But then I didn't want church jargon. But
Yep,
at the same time, it is church because it's like you hear he moves mountains all the time, but just like the way certain things are said at the pocket of how it's said matters. You know what I'm saying?
definitely. I want to speak about three people that are very key to Anthem Nights: Ashley Young, Sean
Mm-hmm.
Dodson, Trey Barnes. Talk to me about who they are and their importance to Anthem Nights being successful.
Yeah. Ashley and Sean are two beasts on their own. And they are so powerful. Them two. And we've all been in each other's lives for quite some time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so seeing them and hearing their stories and hearing their heart or seeing their heart, like I've had conversations with them and they'd be like, man, the worship culture in Atlanta or the East Coast of, the States is kind of like, man, why isn't it something out here for them or for us or something like that? Just hearing those conversations, um, you know, um, kind of inspired. I'm like, okay, when I was thinking of Anthem Nights, it's just like, of course them, you know, um, and we have a certain chemistry already to where like I know what he can do, I know what she can do. I can just point to you and just let you go. I don't have to do
Mm.
everything. I don't want to do everything. You know what I'm saying? I just love sitting back and kind of orchestrating everything. Just like, yes. There's times where I whisper in Sean ear, go to You Made a Way. And then he'll start singing it. Or go to Ashley, Break Every Chain. Like, that's literally that Break Every Chain video. She didn't
Mm.
know I was going to do that. That was not rehearsed. So I started Break Every Chain, right? And then I pointed to her and be like, and then she just went.
Yeah, she
And
gone.
so it's kind of like those are two, obviously, they're two essential parts. But I have to, and Trey Barnes, he's like the backbone of it all for sure. Like he's the big bro backbone. Like we be getting into it, arguments. He's like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on, wait a minute, backtrack. Let's put some word on it so feelings can get out of here. But he's another special key component too because he's more on the Christian contemporary side of music to where we have the rapper, producer, I'm still churchy. We got
Mhm.
Sean, he's super churchy. Ashley can go both, like creative wise, church, Christian contemporary, and then you have Trey. He's on the Christian contemporary side, and he just flows in that space too as well. And so at Anthem Nights, even though the videos that we post, it's more of the trap worship vibe. It's not just that. Like there's been breakout revival sessions where people are getting healed, delivered, and crying and all over the place and getting saved and all of that. So it's not just a vibey night, but at the end of it, it's kind of like, yeah, we gonna lay down on our face and really go in.
And you know what it is? You feel that as well. Like even when you go into Holy Flow on the album, you can feel like there's a shift where you've gone from something that's really like vibey and really and like it's really like okay, this is I like this into a switch to a degree, if that makes sense. So you can feel it on the album. So I can only imagine when you have Anthem Nights and
Yeah,
in these different, volume one, volume two, the album, volume three,
yeah,
I can imagine that happening. And it's because it's not in a church as well.
yeah,
There's a like an extra element. I don't know if you
yeah.
feel that.
No, there's everybody's an essential. They're all essential key parts into the whole night becoming what it is. So I can't wait to drop volume four because it's coming. But volume four, there's so much stuff that happens at Anthem Nights that is just too much to release for people to digest it.
Mm.
So like there was one we did an Anthem night outside. It was Memorial Day weekend on Memorial Day, actually, which I'm surprised that 100 and some people showed up on Memorial Day. Um, there was a moment outside, and I think it's on camera, to where we were singing "Do It Again," Elevation Worship's "Do It Again," and a random person. We didn't see it, just random person. Somebody turned around and they just fell out, started crying, and we all turned around, and a random guy just in the back, just arms wide, just crying, and just worshiping outside of the gate. He didn't know what was going on until he walked up. And there was a couple other people. So we walked around, prayed for him, asked, like, you want to come in, blah, blah, had a conversation. Boom. And then we just saw people outside of the gate kind of lined up watching, like wondering what this is. So that's the piece that people don't see, to where we actually stop what we was doing, forget the songs real quick, pray for your neighbor, and the whole revival broke out on Memorial Day.
So how do you find like that? That's an amazing story. And obviously, recently we've seen you put out just elements of different songs, just to say, oh, underneath this was this, and like as kind of content, social media, videos and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How do you find balancing everything though? Like you've created this thing, it's now got to where it's got to. There's elements that you do that people won't see, that people will probably will never see. How do you balance all of that with people that you now require for them to film, to record, like to record the sound, the musicians, the singers, and the people that end up coming, like stage managers or whatever you may have? How do you balance all of that, and how do you manage all of that?
Honestly, I'm still trying to figure that out. I'm
Mm.
honestly still trying to figure it out because everything came so quick. Everything happened really so quick, and to where like I'm actually realistically right now like backtracking and just trying to establish certain things to where um when people do feel away or personalities like clash or whatever, then there's something in black and white or whatever to kind of like bring us all back to like, hey, okay, this is what's happening, this is what it is, this is what's about to happen, to where, because I'm a person like, yo, I'm gonna call you, this is my idea, remember it. Like, like, but I learned this about myself. Is I thought because people knew me, they should understand like my heart. So, oh,
Mm.
you should. It just goes without saying, or you should know, or whatever the case. And I had to learn, and I'm. This is honestly within the past week and a half. If I was being just real open and honest, how like I have to consistently communicate my expectations, because when I don't communicate my expectations, that leaves rooms for somebody else's interpretation. And so now there's misunderstanding and miscommunication because I didn't overly communicate from the beginning.
Yeah.
So and actually just like, hey, there's so that this is all like pieces that I've learned, and like other people just like, yo, get your structure and organization right. Because without that, movements die without structure and organization. So I was just like, ooh wee.
So, would you say you've had to learn a lot about yourself during this process of starting Anthem Nights?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And
Mm.
I've started going to therapy in all of this. Um, which is I in therapy I learned that I struggle, or I'm challenged with, people pleasing,
Mm.
and learning, and then I actually YouTube like what is people pleasing, and learning that it's actually like a disease in comparison to like alcoholism or whatever the case may be. Like it's an actual thing. And one thing that I'm learning is like, dang, all right, I'm trying to work through being a people pleaser, but I'm in a position to where I have to serve people. So how do I incorporate everybody, make them connect with everybody, and feel this way, and then still be okay, and learn how to protect myself and say no, or be okay with people not liking the decision that I made or an opinion that I have about something. Because ultimately, like that's what people pleasing is. It's just like, yo, they're willing to bend whatever of themselves to not feel the tension or confrontation from somebody else. So they're like,
Yeah.
okay, all right, I got, but that's not really what they thinking in their head,
Hmm.
So all of this I'm learning.
Wow.
Yeah, bro.
Wow.
Yeah.
Again, because I'm a fan of your music, to hear that this particular element, after so many years of doing it, basically not by yourself, but basically by yourself, to then get into a situation where you're collaborating with so many different people, but in that is teaching you a lot more about yourself
Yeah.
is amazing to hear. If I'm being honest, like it's an amazing thing because not many people get to this stage within their music artist journey, and they're still learning so much about themselves and putting themselves in different situations and allowing themselves to, oh, I need to check that
Hmm.
just to make sure that this is good,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
just amazing to hear.
Yeah. And that was one thing that like I had to be open and candid about with them, because they like with the team, because I don't know the context of the conversation, but I was just like, I gotta share this with you guys. I don't know if y'all may not know this. I thought y'all know, but I'll share it again. Um, like I've never worked a 9 to 5 in my life. Like I've never worked a 9 to 5 in my life. I've never been married, and I don't have kids. So like the context, and then Trey was just like, oh, so you've never had anybody to be accountable like that in your life. And I thought about it. I was like, when you work a 9 to 5, you're accountable to your manager, your supervisor. You got a working group, whatever. You got to clock in, clock out. There's certain things that like people just like walk past it. I've never experienced the like, okay, like that, like being married. Like obviously that's a no brainer as far as like they have access to you 24/7, you know, and
Yep.
kids, people looking up to you, people, where you got to overly communicate, like, and show boundaries and say, hey, no, this is not, no, this is it, and kind of keep everybody on track or whatever, check in, whatever the case may be. I've never had to experience that. So when it comes with anthem nights, like keeping a hold of everybody, making sure everybody's on the same page, and it's just like, yo, I'm only one person. I'm
Mm.
inexperienced in this area, you know. But it's just like I couldn't have an excuse, as far as like my inexperience, because God calls the inexperience.
There we go. There we go. Do you now feel the pressure now of having to raise the bar?
Like that's something that I've always had to experience with my personal stuff too. It's just like you always got to make another it's a bop, or another barely finished, or another no fakery, or another no plan B, or chain gang, or something like that. It's always like, okay, but I tend to have to be honest, I'll start off like, hey, I gotta make something like that. And then it's like, just create. Just create. Just go from there. Don't worry about whatever. Don't worry about, man, this and that, a third, and what if people not gonna like trap worship, and like all of those thoughts have went in my head, and it's just like, just go, because you're only worried about. And this has happened in my personal career, to where I've changed my sound because of my career peers.
Okay.
Like like man, like they said, it was just like, no, bro, you're not doing it for them, because they're not listening to your music. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yep.
Trey or Jonathan Moreno, they're not listening to your music. Like they not, no. It's because of the random person that works at Walgreens, Walmart, whatever, that listens to your music, that's sharing that. Like, no, it's the organic, it's the fans. So like if they rocking with it, it ain't broke. Don't fix it. So that's all stuff that like definitely travels in my head for sure.
This has been an eye opening conversation because a lot of people have just seen the videos, they've just heard the album. Not not a lot of them have the backstory behind this is where you were at, which is so important. It's so integral to your journey. And yeah, I know it's going to bless a lot of people. And I hope it, when this does come out, it blesses you, just so you understand that your music would have blessed people who were also in a similar situation.
Yeah.
And you continue to raise the bar for yourself and for those who are looking up to you and listen to you, and for your music community. So I want to give you your flowers for that as
I
well,
appreciate that.
because I think that's important.
That
My
means
last question: what is the story you want your album to tell, and what impact do you want your album to have on anyone who listens to it?
I want people to understand that it's okay to be yourself. It's okay to be the person God created you to be. I want people, and God loves you in spite of. That is something that I want this, like my music, the album, whatever I put my hands to, is to encourage, bring hope, and let people know that Jesus loves them. And Anthem Nights, the event, has done that, to where like people have came out that don't go to church. They said, hey, I don't go to church, but this is my church. Like, if my church was like this, if church was like this every Sunday, I am rocking with it. Like, it just feels so free. There's no fluff. There's no somebody getting up and doing a lot. It's just us being us, and like the impact of it is amazing. Like, I've had my drug dealer homie, not that he's dealing me drugs, but no, let me just make that clear. But one of my homies hit me up. He's a secular artist that I work with. He was just like, bro, when's the next anthem night? Like, me and my lady was just talking, And she's talking about getting back inside the church, but like there's not a church right now. I don't want to introduce her to church with all of the politics of church or whatever the case may be. Like I just want her like just the Anthem Nights is a perfect introduction to just Jesus. And when he said that, like it just blew my mind. It's just like wow, like you've never been to one. Like he's never been to one, but because of what he's seen online, he's like, yeah, I want my lady to be, and I want to get back in the church and get my relationship back right with God. So I think at the end, that's the impact for sure. It's for people to find a relationship with Jesus for sure. Oh, and I have to say this: everybody who had a part in making Anthem Nights become what it's becoming, I appreciate y'all from the bottom of my heart.
Love that. Trap Worship Volume 1, Trap Worship Volume 2, the Anthem Nights album, Trap Worship Volume 3, Trap Worship Volume 4 is coming. Remember, you need to get onto Brvndon P about this Thai tribute song, you know. I heard run, 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 and I ain't got a clue what he's talking about. So we need to make sure that song comes out in 2025.
That's it. And we got our next live recording coming up too. So we're gonna post that because I know that's our next Anthem night, and that's our next. I don't know when we're gonna announce it, but we're gonna announce it soon, so we can allow people to make plans and arrangements to come and fly out and do all of that. Because, yeah, we're back. We back.
Thank you guys. This is the album review show with the amazing Brvndon P from Anthem Nights, and trust me, there'll be much more content coming for you very, very soon.
Yes, sir.